Hello everyone, my name is Taylor. I am a single mother who faced many challenges to raise my son, Eric. Many single mothers have supportive families. I thought I did too, but I was wrong and found out in the worst way. Thankfully, I managed to protect myself and my son from the people who tried to ruin our lives. My ex-husband Carl is an abusive person. Just thinking about him makes me feel sick. There was a time when I was deeply in love with him. But things got bad after we got married. Carl was a wonderful boyfriend, but as a husband, he was a nightmare. He was controlling and gradually became abusive. I stayed in the marriage for over 8 years because he manipulated me and trapped me with a baby. I believed my son deserved a father, so I didn't leave. However, things got much worse when Eric was 5. One day, Carl started to hit me very hard. My poor son saw this and tried to stop his dad. Carl was so angry that he pushed Eric to the floor. That was the breaking point for me. I called Child Protective Services, CPS, and the police, which was enough to keep Carl away from us. However, he was determined to get back at me. He said, "You think you can run away from me, Taylor? That will never happen. Sooner or later, I will have you and my son back in my house. You just wait and see. We are getting a divorce, Carl. There is no way I will allow you near me or my son again. Even if we divorce, I'll find a way to take Eric. I am his dad, and I have rights. He will be in my home, and so will you. Mark my words." Carl's behavior and violent history made me very paranoid. My son was extremely traumatized and had to go to therapy to deal with his issues. After a long court battle, Carl and I were finally divorced. I didn't stop there. I moved near my parents and sister to stay safe from Carl. I even got restraining orders against him. It was the most horrific time of my life. Carl never knew where I had moved. He might have guessed, but he didn't have my exact address. Being near my parents and sister made me feel safe. However, my parents were not very supportive of my divorce. They said, "Was it really necessary to get a divorce? You two could have attended therapy and talked it out. It's not a big deal. Poor little Eric had to lose his dad over your problems. That's so unfair. He must be devastated not being able to see his dad." "Are you serious right now? Carl used to beat me up, Mom, and he even hit Eric when my son tried to protect me. How can you not see what a monster Carl is? Mom, Dad, you need to be more understanding of Taylor. She has been through a lot. You have no right to make her feel guilty. She did the right thing," my sister said. At first, Mom and Dad would talk to me about letting Eric see his dad, but I never allowed it. My parents were never happy with my decision. They'd always said, "Why don't you let Carl visit Eric? He must miss his son." How would you feel if I wasn't around when you were growing up? I know I would have been devastated. Taylor, you grew up in a home with 2 parents. You can't be so selfish with Eric. He deserves the love of his father. Soon he will start resenting you for not allowing his father to be in his life. What are you even talking about? Eric is terrified of his dad. He begs me never to let Carl near us again. Neither of us wants anything to do with him. You may be letting Carl's bad actions color your view. You shouldn't have involved Eric in your problems. He's scared of Carl because you've made him that way. That's unfair, Dad. If Carl was a good man and a loving father, he wouldn't have hurt me in front of Eric, or at all. No matter how hard I tried, they never agreed with my decision. Over time, though, they seemed to accept it. They became close to Eric and did a great job as grandparents. Eric also formed strong bonds with them and his aunt, Blair. I think part of the reason my parents stopped pressuring me was because Blair and I were financially supporting them. Dad doesn't have a good job and Mom doesn't work, so we sent them monthly allowances. Money might have been why they eventually stopped bringing up the matter. Eric and I were doing well in our new home. He started school locally, and I had a good job in an office. Things were going smoothly, and I was happy being close to family. However, I didn't expect my loved ones to betray me. About a year after leaving Carl, I was preparing for a business trip to another city. I couldn't bring Eric along because there were no childcare arrangements at work. I was stuck, wondering what to do with Eric. That's when my mom and dad suggested a plan. They said, "We heard you'll be going on a business trip soon. Stuart and I have been thinking about babysitting Eric for you. We can stay at your house and take care of both Eric and the house." "Are you sure about this? Eric can be quite a handful. Plus, leaving your apartment empty might be risky, don't you think? It's just for a few days, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Besides, we love Eric and he loves us. I'm sure he'll enjoy spending time with us." "Yeah, we'll stay here and take care of everything. Your house will be safe while you're away. It's like getting 2 benefits at once." "Okay, since you're so insistent, I'll leave Eric and my house with you." I agreed to let them babysit Eric and stay at my house until I returned. I felt satisfied with the plan because I trusted my parents completely. Now I know I made a huge mistake. I shouldn't have trusted them at all. My business trip was just a week later. I flew out that night after saying goodnight to Eric. I had to leave a day early to prepare for a big client meeting the next morning. I called my parents and Eric from the hotel after I arrived. Everything seemed fine. Little did I know what was about to happen. At night, while I was in my hotel room preparing for my meeting the next day, Blair called me. Her call made me anxious. I immediately thought something might be wrong at home. I answered nervously. "Hey Taylor, have you already left for your business trip?" Blair asked. "Yes, I flew out yesterday. It's a short trip." "Have you left Eric with Mom and Dad?" I replied. "Yes. Is everything okay?" "They're staying at your house with Eric. They're taking good care of him, and he loves being with them," Blair said. "Taylor, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you made a mistake leaving Eric with them. I don't think they have good intentions. Something doesn't feel right," Blair continued hesitantly. "What do you mean? Tell me what's going on. You're scaring me, Blair," I urged, feeling a knot in my stomach. "I think Mom and Dad might try to take Eric to see Carl. They've been against your decisions about the restraining orders and your divorce. I have a bad feeling they might try to reunite Eric with him," Blair explained. "What? No, they can't do that. There must be some misunderstanding. They didn't approve of my divorce, but they wouldn't side with someone who abused me," I protested in disbelief. "I understand you trust them, but please stay cautious. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Remember that," Blair urged. "Thanks, Blair. I'll keep that in mind." "Don't worry," I replied. Blair's words lingered in my mind, unsettling me deeply. I couldn't shake off the unease, so I decided to call my parents and check in with them. I said, "Hey, Mom, can you pass the phone to Eric? I miss him a lot and want to talk." "Sure, Taylor. Just a moment," Mom replied. "Mom, are you there?" "Hi, Eric. I just wanted to check in. Is everything okay? Are you having fun?" I asked. "Mom, I need to tell you something. Grandma and Grandpa have called the Dad." "Oh no, my phone's about to die. I'm so sorry, Taylor. I have to charge it now. Why don't you call back later? Eric's fine and playing with us. Don't worry about a thing. Take care. Bye." Something about Eric's attempt to speak and how Mom quickly ended the call made me suspicious. My mind raced, so I decided to review the security camera footage. I didn't have cameras inside, but I did outside. To my shock, there was my ex-husband's car in the driveway. I watched the footage and saw my mom opening the door for him. After watching the footage, I was furious and scared for Eric's safety, and my own. Carl wasn't supposed to know where we lived. I had a restraining order against him. He should never have been near my son. I immediately called my parents in anger, recording the call. "Mom, why is Carl at my house? What's going on? Who gave you permission to let him in?" "Taylor, you need to calm down. Carl isn't here." "Why would you think that?" My mom replied defensively. "Mom, I can see his car parked in my driveway. Did you forget I have security cameras outside?" "I saw you open the door for him," I insisted. There was a long silence on their end. Neither of them said a word. I could sense I had caught them off guard, but what happened next shocked me even more. "Look, I understand you're upset with Carl and us, but you're being unreasonable. You need to give us some understanding. I'm very disappointed in you, Taylor. You can't keep a son away from his father. Eric needs Carl in his life. You're not being a good mother. Please tell me you're joking. Carl physically abused me. He even hurt Eric when he tried to protect me. How can you allow Carl back into his life? I have a restraining order against him, for God's sake." "That was in the past, Taylor. People can change. Your restraining order was causing issues. So yes, your mom and I decided to step in. We gave Carl your address since you wouldn't. We've reunited father and son. They're happy together. Mom, Dad, you have 5 minutes to get Carl out of there. If you don't, there will be consequences. Don't threaten us, Taylor. We're your parents. You're 3,000 miles away. Carl will stay here as long as he wants. We're planning a picnic tomorrow." "I'm hanging up now before you say anything else," Mom retorted before ending the call. "I literally gave you 5 minutes to get Carl out. When that time passed and his car was still in the driveway, I had enough. I felt scared and betrayed. I knew I had to act fast, so I called law enforcement. I explained everything and told them to arrest Carl. I also instructed them to take Eric from my parents and give him to Blair. The police arrived quickly, thanks to living near a station. I watched through CCTV as they confronted my parents and Carl. Mom and Dad looked panicked as the police moved in to arrest Carl. Mom called me, furious. "Taylor, what's wrong with you? Did you call the cops on us? How could you do this? Carl could go to jail." "He will go to jail, Mom, and so will you if you don't leave my house right now. I don't want you and Dad on my property again. I've called Blair. She's coming to take Eric. You'll never come near us again." "How dare you, Taylor? You're a horrible woman. I wish you were never born. You can't kick us out and take our grandchild from us. We won't let that happen." "Good luck with that, Mom and Dad. The police will stop you if you try anything. They know Eric is going with Blair. You can't do this. We have grandparent rights. We'll sue you." Good luck trying to fight me in court. It'll be interesting to see the judge's reaction when she learns you allowed an abusive man into my home despite a restraining order. You won't stand a chance." Before my parents could respond, the police emerged with handcuffs. Carl was led to a waiting police car and placed in the back seat. Seeing him taken away brought me a sense of relief and satisfaction. The police then turned their attention to my parents, who were flustered, and my dad began shouting at them, likely arguing about Eric. At that moment, my sister Blair arrived. She showed her ID to the police and took Eric with her. My parents tried to intervene, but the police intervened and prevented them from causing any trouble. The officers stayed until my parents gathered their belongings and left. Blair locked up the house and took the keys from them. My parents tried calling me to scream about the situation, but I didn't pick up. They started sending me strange and threatening texts, which I recorded because they were alarming. Here's what they said. "What you did today wasn't right, Taylor. There will be consequences. You had no right to take Eric away from us and Carl. I can't believe you're my daughter. I hate you. You won't keep us away, Taylor. You work. You can't be with Eric all the time. We'll get visitation rights from court, then take Eric from you. One call to CPS from us and Eric could be taken away. We're smarter than you. We'll call CPS with bad stuff. They'll place Eric with us, and he'll never return to you." "That won't happen. Eric stays with me, and I'll protect him with everything I have. We know Eric's school and your address. We'll find a way to be with him. You can't stop us." "Yeah, if you act crazy, we'll take him away from you. You'll never see him again." My parents are not only horrible but also foolish. It's clear to me now that they still expect everything to go their way. They have no idea what I have planned. Time will reveal everything to them. Carl made a big mistake by teaming up with them. He'll face consequences too. I wrapped up my work as quickly as possible and rushed home. Blair had kept Eric safe at her house. Eric was visibly relieved to see me. "Mom, you came back. I was afraid you wouldn't," Eric said anxiously. "Eric, what are you talking about? I went on a business trip." "Of course, I was coming back," I reassured him. "Dad said you left me, Mom. He showed me pictures of his house and said he'd take me with him. I was scared. I didn't want to go," Eric explained, clearly distressed. "Eric, listen to me. I will never let Carl take you or even come near you again. I'm staying right here with you, I promise," I assured him firmly. I spent a long time comforting Eric and ensuring he felt safe. It was upsetting to hear that Carl had been filling his head with lies about me abandoning him and trying to take him away. I was furious with Carl. CPS got involved and listened to Eric's account. They recommended therapy, and Eric is already attending sessions. I've also enrolled both of us in group therapy to help us heal from our experiences. Our therapist has been wonderful and supportive throughout. My lawyer used all the evidence of Carl's crimes in court. He's facing charges for attempted kidnapping and violating the restraining order, which could lead to jail time. Right now, I'm working on legally severing Carl's parental rights to Eric. My son deserves a good father, not an abuser like Carl. My lawyer is competent, and we're hopeful for a successful outcome. Eric, listen to me. I won't let Carl come near you ever again. I promise I'm staying right here with you, I reassured him. I spent a long time comforting Eric and making sure he felt okay. Carl had been saying hurtful things to Eric, like I abandoned him and Carl was going to take him away. I was really angry at Carl for spreading lies. Child Protective Services, CPS, got involved and listened to Eric's side of the story. They suggested therapy for him, and he's already attending sessions. I've also joined group therapy with Eric to help us both heal from what happened. Our therapist is really supportive and helps us work through our feelings. All the evidence of Carl's crimes was used by my lawyer in court. He's facing charges for trying to kidnap Eric and violating a restraining order, and he might go to jail. Right now, I'm working on making sure Carl loses his rights to be Eric's father. My son deserves a good dad, not someone who hurts him like Carl. My lawyer is very good, and we're hoping the legal process goes smoothly. My parents tried to sue me for grandparent rights, but the judge quickly dismissed their case when they saw my evidence and the texts my parents sent. I took further steps and got restraining orders against them, which the judge approved right away. I've moved with Eric to a different state because I got promoted at work to a higher position in a new city. It helped me get away from my parents. Blair visits us sometimes, and she's also cut off contact with our parents and might move closer to me soon. My parents are struggling financially now that Blair and I have stopped helping them out. They had to find extra jobs, and lawyer fees drained their savings, making them unstable. Meanwhile, Eric and I are doing really well in our new environment. I have no plans to reconnect with my parents or let Carl hurt my son again.